In this final installment with Brandon Nash, we find out what this busy owner would like to do more of, what he'd like to do less of, and we play a game I call One Parent's Perspective. We also get Brandon's final advice for power sports dealers. So let's shift gears now and go back to some management topics. What do you wish you could do more of with your stores?
I wish that I could spend a little bit more time individually with not specific types of employees, but make sure that the employees understand that I'm here to support them, whether I have been in that exact shoes or not. A
Yeah.
service writer is a good example of that. It's not something that I've worn that particular hat. I understand it. I understand how important that it is. I understand that, delivering a quality service to the customer, getting in, getting out, communication, all that type of stuff is good. But there's not always solid training, for those particular people. And even if they are having some organizational issues or whatever it is, just to know that I could spend 5 minutes a week, a month, whatever, and we can get them more up to speed along with their, direct manager and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Because being in this industry, I mean, I've elevated people much faster than I really needed to because of current wages and because of needs around the dealership. I don't always have time to send them to school or send them
Right.
to a 2 week training seminar or whatever. So, just being able to help out and spend more individual time as much as I can. Because again, wearing a bunch of hats and trying to help manage 3 stores, it pulls you in a lot of different
A
directions.
lot of directions. Okay, so what do you wish you were doing less of?
I wish I was doing less of driving. Not so much as far as on the 3 stores, but I wish I was had a little bit more handle on going to pick up parts or going to deliver this car or whatever it is. And that's just a personal thing
Well, listen,
because
I've been in that
I
Phoenix traffic. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
yeah I could find myself more time with the individual personal help if I wasn't in the truck driving so much.
I bet.
But it needs to be done.
What's the one word you would use to describe yourself?
Adaptable. I really
Adaptable.
am.
Adaptable.
I really am adaptable. I've been when I moved up from Arizona to Oregon, I'd never even visited the area once before, and it was one of those opportunities where if I don't say yes to this, I don't know if more opportunities are coming down the road. So let's just go for it. Um,
Excellent.
and
I
it's the same thing in the current challenges that we have. If you're not adaptable, you're just gonna stay stagnant and watch all the success go by.
you may be not surprised to find out that I had a conversation with your dad
Sure.
about you. You being the second generation Nashty in the business. And I asked your dad what is the one word he would choose to describe you. Would you care to guess what it might be?
Uh, Stubborn.
Well, he was much more polite about it than that. He said
Ah,
tenacious.
yeah. Okay.
Does that surprise you that he selected the word tenacious?
No, no.
Well, listen, I think having tenacity is an incredible compliment. Um, and I think it was Peter Drucker said, the father of modern management, he said, things get done in organizations by people who have a monomaniacal focus on getting things done. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I would describe you as that, tenacious. I think that's great. Um, if you had a hard time wrapping your hands around or getting your head around something to do with business or something to do with your personality, what do you think is the biggest thing that you struggle with?
Um, that's a hard one. Only just because sometimes you struggle with a lot, right?
Yeah.
I would say the most recent one that I've struggled with is the work life balance. Being too much involved as far as at work, and then not being able to, i.e., punch your card, go home, leave it there, be there with the family, do the kid stuff. That's probably my hardest one,
All right.
especially when it's
Excellent.
like, hey, I need to be home at a specific time, and I'm here half hour, 45 minutes later, and I haven't left yet. And that's my biggest challenge I'm still working on.
It is hard. And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. Would you like to know what your dad said?
Sure.
Said sometimes slowing down enough to let others catch up. He's got another gear with the nitrous button smashed. But that's back to the patience thing, right? I mean, at least you're aware of it. And you know,
Sure.
and I don't think there's anything wrong with having a nitrous button smashed. All right, that's fantastic. If you had to mention a strength of yours, what would you say are one or two things that is your competitive advantage, your strengths, something that you do well?
I probably forward think more than anybody in our entire organization when it comes to having a plan to go ahead. I mean, if we've got an event that's coming up, I want to get after it. I do not want to sit there last minute. Did we grab this? Did we have that? Did we whatever? I mean, when the trucks roll in at night from the deliveries, what's the first thing that's going out in the morning that we can safely put in the trucks to make sure that you're out, you're going, you're
Right.
on it? And that's probably the one thing that, I've tried to instill in at least the one main store that I'm at, in the Phoenix department or the Phoenix store. The other two still working on, but just try to forward think, because at our store, we're only open 5 days a week, not 7. We want all of our 18 players to be on at 5, but that means you only have 5 days to get a 7-week work week done.
Right.
So if you're not forward thinking, if you're not trying to get ahead of what you can, that's manageable, I think that you're not executing as best as you can.
Excellent. Would you like to know your dad's take?
Sure.
This is kind of fun, this little game
Yeah.
we created here.
It's almost like that couples game, right?
Yes, right. So he says one of your strengths is creativity. You have an extraordinary ability to think outside of normal thought processes and to make things happen. He also says that you are a terrific trainer that likes to show people how to do things versus just telling them how to do things. And he also says that your ability to stay dedicated since an early age has really been extraordinary. And the other thing that your dad is impressed about is that you are an amazing father and husband. His words. How does that make you feel when you hear your dad saying that stuff about you?
Well, he's not exactly a man of many words all the time, but when you hear that stuff, it's obviously encouraging.
It's got to make you feel good. All right, so now I'm going to use that amazing father and husband. I would like for you to please tell us about this picture.
So this is the most.
Who's in this picture first?
What's that?
Could you tell us who's in this picture first?
Well, there's only one handsome devil in that picture. That's myself.
The stud muffin.
Yes. The one in the middle is Ava. She's my 14-year-old stepdaughter, but I've known her since she was 4 years old. 100%, in my opinion, my kid. My lovely wife all the way to the right, her name's Jennifer. She's the one who I moved up from Phoenix to Oregon. She stayed back because she was in school, and we kept it the long distance, and it worked out better than I could have imagined. The one in the middle is the little one. That's Brinsley, my 2-year-old Fireball. Absolutely just an amazing little kid. And the other two is McKenna and Tatum. Those are my twin nieces that are now with us permanently because we had a death earlier this year. So,
I'm sorry to hear that, but thrilled to see this smiling and happy family together. What's the greatest thing about being a husband and a dad?
Well, for the longest time with Brinsley, my littlest one, it was mommy, 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 right? The whole going through the motions, breastfeeding, all that type of stuff. But more recently, she doesn't want to have a whole lot to do with mom. She wants to do with dad, and that's very, very, very rewarding. Going to work, doing what I do, still being able to put passion into my lifelong dream. But being able to go home and understand that I've got a support system at home that believes in me and that wants me to be happy, that's the best.
That's key, isn't it? And
Hmm.
again, what I dig about you, Brandon, is you're connected with your purpose. And this is your purpose. Now listen, I got to ask you something. Living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I know why I am a Green Bay Packers fan. I got to ask, what in tarnation? You're all the way out there in Arizona. What's this Packer fandom thing you've got going on?
Well, growing up, I actually wasn't as in tune with football. I was actually a soccer player for about 9 years. But when, per se, I hung up my cleats and was at work, and guys were doing fantasy football. I do remember one thing growing up. My aunt and uncle, who lived just outside of Green Bay, always sent me stuff: Packers birthdays, Christmases, graduations. So it was kind of implanted there. But when I actually started to have a good love for football, it was the change of Brett Favre into Rodgers, and the fact that the team is owned by the town, it's owned by the people. It just connects with me even more because it's not big money, right? And I feel like my particular story and where I want to end up is going to be homegrown. It's going to be something that is for the people.
Interesting. Now, are you a stockholder yet?
No, I missed out on the sale again
Oh,
for the third
no.
time. For the third time. However, I do get to say that on this Saturday, I will be traveling to Green Bay for my very first game in Lambeau when they play the Bears this weekend, and I am over the moon pumped about that.
No way. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
night game. It's going to be the night game taking on our courageous Green Bay Packers will be taking on the
I I
dastardly
had two
Chicago
I had
Bears.
two requirements for my first Lambeau experience. One, it needed to be against the Bears, and two, it had to be in the tundra. And I looked at the forecast, and I am so happy that I'm hoping it's blowing snow like crazy.
Yeah, well, it was only 8 degrees here the other morning, so we'll see if
Perfect.
we can't chill it up for you. Okay,
Perfect.
before we go, what would if you had two or three pieces of advice for your fellow power sports dealers, what would your final two or three pieces of wisdom be?
So whether you are in a high level position or a lower level position, I definitely attribute, my homegrown, experience and stuff like that. I set goals big time. It was, I want to do this at 18. I want to do that at 25. I want to do this at, 30 or so. And it was putting myself in the position to maintain those goals. And I know that sounds super naive and cliche, but it truly can happen if you just, put the goals in, put the training in, listen to people who are more educated than you, listen to people who have got more experience than you, and be a sponge. You absolutely have to be a sponge. Our time in class that we had in the communications we've had since then, all the videos that you do, all that stuff is great for me. It's also good to look outside the industry. That's another
Yeah.
piece. Funny enough, there's a TV show that I like, Bar Rescue with John Taffer. Obviously, it's a reality TV show, but there's actually some wisdom in there, right? Our industries, as far as hospitality, right? Your servers, your front end people, your salespeople, your cooks, your mechanics, they have a lot in common, and you got to be able to take from different industries and sometimes implant that into what you do. And the last thing is you got to do something that separates yourself from anybody else. I had a good time up at Wild Horse. We had our in the finance office. We actually call it a signing room, and I'll tell you a short story. So we'd always, when someone buys their Harley, we always put their name up on the or not their name, the bike that they're buying up on the screen, right? So I had this big old TV screen, regular table. We were just going in there signing. And I came up with that idea because on my honeymoon, I went to Bora Bora, and we had this long 17-hour travel between planes, ferries, buses, all the stuff. And at the end of it, all I wanted to do was get to my hotel room, drop my bags, and have a minute to breathe. But I still needed to show my itinerary, show my passport, blah, blah, blah. But as I was there, I'm looking at this amazing ocean and Bora Bora. And I'm like, I'm here. I get to start my, vacation. I get to do whatever. And for some reason I was thinking about work, but I said, how do I implant that into what I do at work? And it was specifically the same thing. We negotiate, we pick out a bike, we go through a sales process, which could feel like a full traveling schedule. But then when you finally say yes, you finally get the approval, you finally, do what you want to do. And now all you have to do is sign. And then there you are. You're looking at your beautiful bike, you're looking at your beautiful ocean, and you get to go and enjoy. So having that difference, having that process, having something that separates yourself, it's just what you have to do. So definitely, that's what I would do.
That
Make
is
sure
a
that you
terrific analogy. A terrific analogy. Brandon, aka Stud Muffin, I have enjoyed our conversations
Yes.
thoroughly. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. The act of juggling customers, employees, family members, this takes extraordinary life balance skills. And I always admire when people like Brandon are doing it well. It's also great to see someone who truly understands the importance of goal setting. The great J.C. Penney once said, "Show me a stock clerk with goals, and I'll show you someone who can take on the world. You show me a person without goals, and I'll show you a stock clerk." Brandon Nash and his generation are the future of this business. And to quote Roger Daltrey in The Who, the kids are all right. Now, go sell something, will you?